At 3 a.m., the waitress stopped him from signing what this billionaire did next haunts forever. The neon lights flickered outside the dimly lit diner, where shadows danced like restless spirits behind the cracked glass. A storm was brewing, heavy clouds rolling in, and the rain hammered against the streets like the frantic heartbeat of the city. Inside, the smell of burnt coffee hung thick in the air, mixing with the crisp dampness seeping in from outside. Everyone knows nothing good happens after midnight, but few would guess how creepy true this could feel. In a booth tucked away towards the back, Benjamin Hart, the billionaire tech mogul, sat with a golden pen poised above a contract that could change everything. His fingers trembled, hovering just above the prima facie commitment he was sure would secure his legacy. His jaw clenched and unclenched, like some primal instinct was warning him. There was something about that night, something in the air felt utterly wrong. He could almost feel the electric charge of fate hanging like a storm cloud overhead, ready to explode. A shiver ran down his spine as he recalled the warnings he had brushed aside, friends saying that it was just a sign, something to be wary of. Then she appeared, his waitress, with wide eyes that seemed to hold the weight of the world. Cora. She was just a girl, but her presence sent a wave of unease rippling through the room. "You shouldn't sign that," she whispered, her voice barely louder than the distant rumble of thunder. Her hands shook slightly, fingers dancing nervously around the edge of her apron. He paused, glancing up and meeting her gaze. It was electric, intense, filled with something he couldn't quite pinpoint. Fear? Concern? Was it for him? Or something deeper? The air crackled with tension as the other patrons, 2 men at the counter and an old woman in the corner, suddenly turned to listen. The diner felt smaller, the walls leaning in as if eavesdropping. "Why not?" "It's just a contract," he questioned, trying to mask the growing fear gnawing at his insides. Cora leaned closer, her breath hitching as the storm outside matched the tension inside. "You don't understand, they've been watching you." He felt the lump in his throat grow. What could she possibly mean? Watching him? The shadowy figures lingering at the edge of his mind suddenly felt too real. His heart raced, pounding against his chest like a drum, signaling an impending flood. Something wretched crept up from inside him, a sinking dread that something significant was swirling just out of reach. The 2 men glanced at each other, eyes wide, expressions twisting into uncertainty, as if she had just unraveled a secret too big for this little diner. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The storm raged on, but inside his head, everything seemed to freeze. Benjamin's mind raced. "What do you mean they?" he whispered, but as he blinked, she was gone. Just like that, she vanished into the shadows, leaving him there, gripped by a dizzying fear he couldn't shake. The whispers of the world around faded into a blur. The rain seemed to scream against the diner, each droplet an echo of a warning. He pressed his eyes shut, trying to remember the contract, the figures, the promises he'd thought were solid. But in that instant, he felt sheer panic constrict his chest. Who was she really? And what danger had he almost stepped into? The weight of uncertainty hung heavy, pulling him down like a lead ball. As he looked around, the patrons resumed their muted conversations, yet he was trapped inside his own storm of confusion. He couldn't sign, but what would happen if he just walked away? And just as his heart began to slow, the door swung open with a gust of wind, slicing through the stagnant air. A figure loomed in the doorway, drenched and shadowed, their silhouette barely visible. Was it her? Or something far worse? The diner fell into an eerie silence. In that moment, every heart held its breath. What would happen next? The neon lights buzzed, and the room felt electric as Benjamin's heart raced anew. That figure in the doorway stepped forward, revealing a face cloaked in darkness, water trickling down like tears from the heavens. The diner's patrons exchanged nervous glances, murmurs rising like the tension in the air. "Who are you?" Benjamin shouted, trying to mask the quake in his voice. The stranger halted, shadows playing tricks as they moved into the light, revealing a man with sharp features and cold eyes that seemed to bore into his soul. "I'm here to deliver a message," the newcomer declared, each word slicing through the thick atmosphere. Benjamin's fingers clenched around the golden pen, pulse thrumming loudly in his ears. A sense of dread slithered through him, coiling tighter and tighter. "What message?" he forced out, fighting the rising sense of panic. "You don't want to sign that contract," the figure said, stepping closer. The rain pounded harder outside, matching the tempo of Benjamin's quickening heart. "Things are not what they seem. You're in danger." The old woman in the corner gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, while the two men at the counter hunched over their half-empty coffee cups, both deep in thought, but visibly frightened. Instinctively, Benjamin felt the hairs on the back of his neck rise as his imagination ran wild. They didn't just want to scare him. This felt real. This felt dangerous. "What do you know about it?" Benjamin demanded, standing up now, frustration bubbling into every word. "It's just a deal I need." The man smirked, but there was no warmth in it. "It's not just a deal. It's a trap." He looked around, his cold gaze scanning the diner. "And they won't stop watching until you belong to them." Benjamin's mind spun as he tried to decipher who they were and what he had stumbled into. Cora's warning echoed in his ears. "They've been watching you." Were these the men she'd meant? "Please leave," Benjamin found himself saying, half hoping the words would dispel whatever dark magic had settled over them. He was still gripping the pen as if it were his last lifeline. But the figure stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You can't outrun them. You think you're safe here? You're marked now. If you sign that paper, they'll own you. You have no idea of the power you're messing with." The walls felt like they were closing in. Benjamin glanced toward the door, craving an escape that felt impossible. What had Cora pulled him into? Suddenly, a loud crash of thunder echoed, shaking the diner and rattling the dishes. In that moment of distraction, the stranger drew back, his expression shifting from confident to nervous. "They're coming." He bolted toward the door, not waiting for a second thought. Benjamin's instincts kicked in. "Wait," he shouted, adrenaline surging as he took a step forward. "What does that mean?" But as if in answer, the lights flickered violently before plunging the diner into darkness. Gasps erupted from every corner. The dim glow of the neon sign outside flickered back on, illuminating only glimpses of terrified faces. And amid the chaos, the door swung open again. Another silhouette appeared, this one more defined, more menacing. The air thickened with the scent of rain and fear. "Benjamin Hart," a deep voice called out, sending chills spiraling down his spine. "You're about to make a grave mistake." He looked around, searching for Cora, for any sign of safety, but found only the glare of uncertainty etched on every face. Why had he stayed? Why hadn't he just walked away? As the figure stepped closer, Benjamin's world tilted, and the only thought that rang clear was that he was caught in the eye of a storm. And storms hardly ever leave without their toll. What unspeakable fate awaited him now? The silence stretched out, thick and suffocating, punctuated only by the patter of relentless rain against the diner's window. Benjamin's heart hammered wildly in his chest, a caged animal desperate to escape. The new figure, dark and imposing, emerged from the shadows like a nightmare brought to life. He wore a long, weathered coat, its edges fraying, hinting at a life lived on the edge. "Step away from the pen, boy," the man commanded, his voice a low growl that sent ripples of apprehension through Benjamin's spine. "No," Benjamin shouted back, adrenaline pushing him forward. "You can't just watch me," the man interrupted, advancing with purpose, those cold eyes narrowing. The diner patrons flinched collectively, but Benjamin remained rooted, a storm of emotions swirling within him. What was happening? The waitress, a skinny woman with deep lines etched on her face, darted around the counter. Her hands trembled as she reached for Benjamin's arm, urgency flashing in her eyes. "You don't understand. He's one of them. You can't trust him. Who are you people?" he flared, his voice rising above the din of fear and confusion. "People?" The newcomer chuckled darkly, a sound devoid of real amusement. "We are the keepers of the balance, the ones who see the truth hidden beneath your petty deals." Thunder rumbled again, shaking the diner as the lights flickered, casting eerie shadows against the wall. Balance. Benjamin's mind raced, skepticism battling against the growing fear. You mean the balance of what? Money? Power? No, the waitress gasped, her grip strong on his arm. The balance of your soul. If you sign that, you become theirs. It's more than just a contract. It's your life. Every word struck him like cold water. The weight of her confession sunk deep, puncturing his desperation. The golden pin felt heavier in his grasp, a chain threatening to bind him. Listen, the man snarled, stepping forward, his breath a mix of disdain and authority. There are forces at play you can't begin to comprehend. Sign, and you'll never be free. Deny them, and they'll come for you, your family, your friends. The thought ignited the smoldering dread within him. Cora, where was she? Had she known what she was dragging him into? Get away from him. The old woman shouted from across the room, her voice trembling but fierce, as if she were preparing for battle. You think you can scare him into submission? The boy has a mind of his own. Back off, sweetheart, the newcomer snapped, but Benjamin could see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. A plot was being woven around him, threads of dread binding him tighter. It felt like the air had become charged with unspeakable possibilities, a fever dream he couldn't escape. Was this just a bad deal, or the beginning of a nightmare? Suddenly, the lights flickered to life, illuminating the faces of terrified patrons, wide eyes reflecting their collective fear. Benjamin's focus sharpened on the figure before him. A choice lay before him like a chasm, a plunge into unknown depths that he glanced at the pen, glistening like a serpent's fang in the artificial light. He knew that signing could seal his fate, but what if refusing it meant endless danger? Choose, Benjamin. The man's voice cracked through the tension. Sign, and be theirs. Or deny, and suffer the consequences. Benjamin's heart raced. He felt time slow, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. Would he bargain with the devil, or would he fight back, ready to face whatever might come for him next? He took a deep breath, preparing to step forward, when suddenly the door burst open, a rush of wind and rain flooding the room, and another figure appeared, a fresh wave of chaos. Run. They know. What did that mean? Who was coming for him next? The newcomer stumbled inside, drenched and breathless. He was a tall man, with wild eyes and hair plastered to his forehead. The fear radiating from him was palpable, shifting the atmosphere in the diner. Patrons shifted nervously, as if sensing the storm rising beyond the facade of rain. Run. They know. He shouted again, eyes darting around, searching for something or someone. Who knows? Benjamin pressed, feeling the weight of dread pressing against him, coiling tighter. His heart raced, fueled by confusion and terror. They're coming. They want your soul. He cut himself off, eyes widening when he caught sight of the dark figure looming in the corner, still watching Benjamin with a predatory gaze. With a sudden burst of desperation, the newcomer rushed toward the man. You have to help him. They'll take him, too. Stop, shouted the man in the coat. He spoke with cold authority, a command that was both a warning and a threat. This isn't your fight. Patrons shuffled nervously, the air thick with tension. Fear swept through the room, a current of panic that sent waves of motion. The waitress squeezed Benjamin's arm tighter, her eyes wide and wild. You need to decide now. Benjamin felt the pulse of decisions flooding his mind. He was caught between an impossible choice, the weight of the pen burning in his palm. The clarion call of caution screamed within him. This wasn't just about himself. It was about Cora. Everyone. Listen, the man in the coat said, voice low but intense. You need to understand. This is a game much larger than you know. Sign that pen, you leave behind nothing but ashes. But refuse. He paused, letting the consequence hang like a noose. You think you'll shield your loved ones? The diner's lights flickered, casting an eerie ambience that made the patrons gasp. Chairs scraped, and muffled whispers floated around them like little ghosts. Time slowed while Benjamin felt as if something dark and heavy was closing in on him. His focus zoomed back to the newcomer, who was standing frozen, eyes pleading. If you don't run now, the darkness will consume everything you love. Shut up, the man in the coat barked. You're only making things worse. Driven to the edge, Benjamin's mind raced. Fear for Cora twisted inside him like a knife. He had to act. I can't let them have me. I want sign. I'd rather die. Suddenly, the door slammed against the wall, and a chill swept the diner, making everyone shiver. Shadows crawled forward from the rain-soaked night, figures cloaked in darkness filling the entryway. Their eyes glinted like predatory beasts, fixed on him with intentions that could burn. Too late for rebellion. Benjamin, the man in the coat, whispered, his voice laced with contempt. You should have signed. In that moment, uncertainty evaporated, replaced by raw panic. Run, he shouted, but he could hardly hear his own voice as the diners erupted into chaos, moving like panicked herd animals toward the opposite end of the diner. Benjamin turned to the window, seeing flashes of lightning illuminating the encroaching darkness outside. What did he just choose? What was coming for him, and why did he feel the weight of the world falling on his shoulders? Go now? The waitress urged, her voice cutting through the pandemonium. But where could they go? What awaited them outside? As Benjamin's senses heightened, he noticed a figure slipping through the throng of shadows, heading directly for him. It was Cora. Desperation gripped him. Would this truly be their last moment together? Cora! No! He yelled, reaching for her. But the shadows were closing in quickly, a wave of dark intent surging forth. Join me, and all will be well, the dark figure beckoned, holding out a hand. Make a choice, Benjamin. And right then, beneath the flickering lights and the sound of raging storm, everything that mattered hung in the balance. Would he stand his ground, or would he fall prey to the insidious forces gathered around him? As he fought to move, a deafening scream erupted behind him, unraveling the moment completely. What awaited him on the other side of that decision? Would they escape, or was this the start of a nightmare he couldn't escape from? Chaos erupted as Cora pushed through the throng of shadows, her face pale but determined. Benjamin, please. Her voice trembled, breaking through the panic that enveloped him. The sight of her ignited something deep within, a flicker of hope amidst the grim certainty closing in. No, Cora, you have to go, he shouted, reaching out, desperate to pull her back to safety. Shadows clawed at the edges of his vision. Their hollow eyes gleamed, hungry for despair. But she wouldn't budge, her eyes locked onto his with fiery resolve. I want to leave you. The storm raged outside, the rain slapping against the windows, drowning out the clamor of the diner. All that remained was their frantic connection, anchoring him in the rising tide of dread. The man in the coat stepped closer, obscuring Cora from view. You think your love will save you? His voice was icy as he gestured dismissively. It's already too late. The tension crackled like the lightning flashing outside. With each moment passing, the shadows coiled tighter around Benjamin, whispering secrets meant to shatter him. A part of him doubted. Maybe it's true. Maybe we're done for. His heart pounded wildly, matching the rhythm of the storm outside. Don't listen to him. Cora screamed, her voice slicing through the heaviness. Fight. We can make it through this together. What could he do? The weight of the pen in his trembling hand felt grotesque, a burden of decisions yet to come. Did it truly come to this? The life of hope hanging by a thread? They're not here just for me, he realized suddenly, dread creeping into his chest. They want us both. With determination surging in his veins, he tore his gaze from the shadows and fixed it on the man. I want to sign anything. The words came out louder than he expected, carrying the weight of his soul with them. We can face this. The dark figure snarled, rage flaring in his eyes. You can't escape your fate, boy. Give in or lose everything. He stepped forward, weaving through the shadows that lurked like encroaching fog. In that split second, the diner's lights flickered once more, plunging everything into an abyss of darkness. Panic flooded Benjamin's senses as he felt Cora's fingers brush against his. Stay with me, Benjamin. He turned to her, seeing the fierce determination in her eyes, her steady breath anchoring him in the storm of uncertainty. Just behind her, he caught the silhouette of the newcomer. You have to trust me, he shouted over the surging noise. Run. Then, chaos reignited. A scream echoed again, a familiar voice. The waitress. Run. Get outside now, she screamed, her face pale with urgency, hands shaking. What about you? Benjamin's gaze darted toward her, fears bubbling to the surface. But every second counted. The shadows pushed forward, an avalanche ready to devour them whole. No time. She turned her eyes to Cora. Go. You need to get out. All the clatter of chairs and the shouts of fear intensified as patrons surged toward the exit, a tide of terror spilling out into the storm. Benjamin's heart raced, torn between his need to rescue Cora and the bleak certainty of what lay behind them. Go, Cora urged, gripping his wrist tightly. We can't let them separate us. In that heartbeat, the diner shuddered as if the world itself were holding its breath. Shadows lunged at them, their coldness a reminder of how close death lingered. But as they turned towards the exit, another scream echoed, chilling enough to freeze Benjamin in place. It was deeper, more bone-chilling than before. Beyond the door, the chaos morphed into something unrecognizable, as if the night itself had birthed an entity hungry for souls. What was that? Benjamin whispered, fear lacing his voice. In that moment of uncertainty, Cora's fierce grip tightened, compelling him to move forward toward the door. We can't stop now. What now awaited them in the storm, what shaped the darkness, would take loomed ahead, balancing on the edge of a knife. As the door swung open, a rush of chilly air met them, and the unknown seeped in. Would they find salvation outside, or were they racing straight into the jaws of a nightmare that would consume them whole? Rain lashed against Benjamin's face as he stepped outside, a wild torrent that intensified the darkness. The storm had transformed the streets into a swirling chaos, where shadows leaped with eerie life, taunting him, beckoning him into their grasp. Cora stumbled beside him, her eyes wide, reflecting the flickering street lamps that barely pierced the night. Stay close, Benjamin shouted over the howl of the wind, but fear knotted his stomach. The shadows loomed larger with every heartbeat, whispering secrets they were not meant to hear. His instincts screamed at him to run, yet he felt rooted to the ground, dread turning to ice in his veins. What if they were too late? Cora pulled him forward, stumbling on the slick pavement. This way, she yelled, pointing toward a narrow alley that seemed to swallow the light. They sprinted into the darkness, the sound of whispers growing louder. Anxiety beat in time with his pulse as he glanced back toward the diner, the flickering lights slowly succumbing to the storm. Just as they reached the mouth of the alley, a figure emerged from the shadows, silhouetted by flashes of lightning. Benjamin's heart raced, the grip of terror clenching tighter as he squinted against the rain. Who's there? His voice cracked with raw fear. Calm down. It's just me. The waitress, her hair drenched and strands clinging to her face, stepped into view, her eyes frantic. You have to listen to me. Why did you? Benjamin started, but she interrupted, panic driving her words. No time. You have to make a choice right now. She pushed her damp hair back, swallowing hard as if gathering strength. They're coming for you. You can't let them take you. Cora breathed heavily beside him, glancing back toward the diner as a low growl echoed through the alley. The shadows seemed to ripple, anticipating their next move. Benjamin felt Cora shift closer. What do you mean? The dark man, he holds the power. He wants to reshape your life. Signing that contract would bind you to despair. You can't accept what he offers. Then what do we do? Benjamin pleaded, urgency coursing through him. We can't just stand here. The waitress's face paled even further as a heavy shadow slithered toward them, swirling like a living entity, its edges flickering with malice. We have to sever the connection. Together you have to believe. Channel your fear, your love, use it against him. Cora, Benjamin whispered, taking her hand firmly in his, a protective shield against the encroaching dread. Do you trust me? Yes. Always. Her determination shone brightly, igniting something deep within him. You heard her, he shouted, facing the creeping darkness. We are stronger than you think. The shadow paused, recoiling as if stung. Cora stepped closer, her eyes fierce. This is our fight. We want to be taken. With every word, he felt heat flow between them, fueling a flicker of power, a surge of hope that reverberated against the oppressive darkness. The shadows recoiled once more, sensing the shift in energy. It's working, the waitress exclaimed, her excitement momentarily breaking through her fear. Keep pushing, Benjamin shouted, raising their intertwined hands high. We will not change for you. The shadows writhed as if stung, twisting away from the light radiating from their connection. But before victory could settle into their hearts, the alley was filled with a bone-chilling laughter, deep and echoing, wrapping around them like a cold embrace. You really think you can escape your fate? The man in the coat emerged from the swirling darkness, his eyes glistening with malice. "What happens next, Benjamin?" he hissed, a smirk creeping across his face. "Will love be enough to protect you?" As the gusts of wind howled through the alley, a new chill gripped Benjamin's heart. The shadows screamed, and the light flickered. Time felt suspended, a taut string ready to snap. What price would they pay for freedom? Would they emerge unscathed, or would darkness claim them? As the air thickened with tension, they had to act. But would it be the decision that saved them, or condemned them? Forever? The laughter echoed, vibrating through the alley like the tolling of a death knell. Benjamin, heart racing, felt the air grow thick with dread. The dark man's gaze was piercing, a serpentine charm wrapped in cruelty. "We've already chosen," Benjamin shouted defiantly, squeezing Cora's hand tighter, their fingers clasped like a lifeline. She nodded, pale but resolute. The shadows hissed in response, a chilling cacophony that slithered closer. Benjamin could feel their icy touch brushing against his skin, wrapping around his legs, dragging him toward the darkness that promised despair. He could almost taste the fear invading the air, cloying and suffocating. "Enough!" Cora yelled, stepping forward, empowered by the bond they shared. "We will not be your marionettes." The dark man chuckled, the sound dripping with mockery, and took a step closer. "Sweet child, you think you can shout, and the night will listen? Each shout you make calls the darkness to feast on your soul." In that moment, Benjamin's resolves flickered like the street lamps struggling against the storm. He had to believe it was all they had. "What do we do?" he whispered to the waitress, desperation dancing in his voice. "Rely on your light. You have to choose to fight back," she urged, her gaze darting to where the shadows writhed. "Fight back," Benjamin echoed softly, feeling the warmth of Cora's hand pulse through him. The storm raged on overhead, but in that flash of connection, something ignited within. "Focus," Cora said, her voice strong amidst the chaos. "What do we have to lose?" He turned inward, searching for a glimmer of courage buried deep beneath the weight of fear. Memories flooded him, the laughter, the warmth of shared moments with Cora, the tender feelings he had kept close. "They can't take this from us," he shouted into the depths, battling against the tide. The shadows surged forward, but now transformed, they faced an unyielding defiance. Light ignited between their hands, illuminating the alley with a gentle glow that pushed back the darkness like the dawn breaking through. "See," the waitress said, her voice rising above the ethereal whispers. "Feel it. That's the power within you." It was electric. The shadows recoiled, a writhing mass, in clear agony. But the dark man would not relent. "You think this flicker is enough to shatter the chains of your fate?" he crooned, his voice like silk, smooth yet laced with poison. "You're merely stoking the fires that will consume you." But Benjamin pressed on, fueled by the bond with Cora, fortifying his spirit. "We are not afraid of you. We will rewrite our destinies. Then let us see what those destinies hold for you." Suddenly, the darkness swept forward like a tidal wave, consuming the flickering light. Benjamin staggered back, fear clawing at him as he felt the shadows closing in. The air turned icy, and he could barely catch his breath. "Cora," he shouted, his voice laced with panic. "Hold on to me. I want to let go." She yelled back, her voice breaking through the encroaching darkness. Their light flickered weakly against the shadows, but then flared back to life, as if drawn from the core of their bond. The dark man stepped forward, his face inches from theirs, smirk widening with sinister anticipation. "Very well," he whispered, a dark promise in his eyes. "Let us turn love against you, and see who prevails." The shadows erupted, swirling frantically around them, howling with a wrath that threatened to engulf their very souls. The air crackled with tension, a storm unlike any other brewing within. "Stand firm," the waitress shouted, clawing at the shadows with an unseen force. "Don't back down." With the darkness swirling, Benjamin felt a tremor of hope mixed with despair. They had come too far to give in now. As the shadows surged closer once again, he took one last breath and shouted, "This is for us." And in that moment of defiance, a terrible revelation struck him. What if the fight didn't just lie in resisting the dark man, but understanding the choices that awaited them next? The shadows hissed, swirling in anger and anticipation. Would love truly be their weapon, Or was it simply another leash binding them to despair? As the darkness pressed upon them, a split-second decision loomed on the horizon. What would they risk to conquer the darkness, and what would they lose in the process? The shadows twisted like living things, coiling tighter around Benjamin and Cora. An eerie silence wrapped around them, smothering the chaos as the dark man laughed heartily, a sound that reverberated through the alley like the cracking of ice. "Ah, such bravery," he taunted. "But bravery alone won't save you. You're flirting with the abyss, and soon enough, it will dance with you." Benjamin's heart thudded in his chest, an urgent rhythm pulling him back from the edge of despair. He sought the light they had conjured, holding on to it fiercely as though it were a buoy in a stormy sea. Cora's grip steadied him, warmth coursing through their entwined fingers as they shared a silent vow to resist. "Look closer," Benjamin urged, pulling Cora's gaze to the shadows writhing at their feet. An unnatural pulse emanated from the darkness, a heartbeat that synchronized with the dread creeping up his spine. What if this darkness holds something else? A choice? Cora's eyes widened as she began to grasp the weight of his words. A choice, she echoed softly, the idea igniting a spark in her luminous eyes. "Remember the stories," he whispered, feeling desperate to harness that flicker of hope. "Where light shines, darkness retreats. Maybe they're not just trying to consume us, they're testing us." The dark man sneered, his face twisting dangerously close. "Testing? Oh no. Dear children, you are already part of the test. Each flicker you ignite merely fuels my power. Every moment of doubt I find in you drags you closer to my embrace." Suddenly, the shadows surged in a torrent, a sea of darkness crashing against their light, as if to shatter it once and for all. Benjamin felt himself pulled under, the icy tendrils reaching for his very essence, urging him to surrender. The weight in his chest grew heavier, squeezing the words from his throat. Panic clawed at him, but Cora's voice broke through the thunder of his fears. "Benjamin, your light, think of it. Remember who we are." Her eyes locked onto his, unwavering and fierce against the oncoming tide. Clarity rushed back in waves, reminding him of every promise, every shared dream, and every awkward laugh they had exchanged in moments that felt like eternity. "You're right. We are not alone," he shouted, channeling the warmth of their connection, igniting a defiance that pushed back the shadows momentarily. With gritty determination igniting in his gut, he focused on the flickering warmth that pulsed between their hands. He drew in a breath, as if summoning courage from the deepest corners of his spirit. Together, the light blazed forth, flickering like 1,000 tiny stars, and clashed against the dark wave that threatened to engulf them. For a heartbeat, the shadows paused, grinding against the brilliance until they hissed in boiling fury. Benjamin and Cora felt the power surge through them, a wave of bright energy pushing back the shadows with renewed strength. But then, from the depths of despair, the dark man lunged closer, almost within reach. "Is this your last stand? Determined to fight mere phantoms? You're foolish. Stop," Cora shouted. "We choose to embrace the light." As if the declaration itself were a spell, the shadows shrieked, and Benjamin felt an explosion of energy boiling over. Suddenly, he was hurled to the ground, disoriented. Around him, chaos erupted. "What is happening?" he gasped, shaking his head to clear the dizziness. But the dark man had smiled with a malevolent glint, watching them with glee. "You are about to learn what lies on the other side of your decision to embrace love or to lose yourself to the darkness forever." The air thickened as a rumble echoed in the distance, a harbinger of something far more ominous than just shadows. What lay ahead? Would they face harrowing choices, or would the dark man reveal a truth that would fracture everything they believed? As Cora knelt beside him, a steely resolve shining in her eyes, they prepared for whatever nightmarish twist awaited them. The darkness loomed closer, its hunger palpable. And then, in the heart of the chaos, a blinding light erupted from within, threatening to expose secrets they had never known. The world around them shifted, and the blinding light expanded, casting grotesque shadows across the alley walls that danced with palpable dread. Benjamin shielded his eyes, trying to comprehend the surge of power radiating from Cora. She stood, arms extended toward the light, her figure haloed in brilliance, glimmering like hope personified. In that moment, everything changed. The shadows ceased their frenzied assault, recoiling with a hiss that vibrated in Benjamin's bones. A strange mix of fear and exhilaration surged within him. Cora's unwavering spirit anchored him, igniting something deep inside that he hadn't known existed. "Focus on the light," she urged, her voice breaking through the fog of fear that weighed on him. "Together, we can break free." He took a step forward, drawn to her incandescent presence. "We need to push it back," he shouted, as if the words alone could drive their would-be captors away. He raised his hands, envisioning every bit of joy, love, and laughter shared with Cora fueling the light's ascent. As his fingers tingled with energy, he felt the darkness trembling, unsure how to respond. The dark man's laughter faded into a furious growl, the shadows writhing around him as if battling against an unseen force. "No, you cannot defy the abyss," he roared, but his confidence wavered, revealing cracks under the pressure of their connection. "Defy it," Cora echoed, her eyes sparkling with fierce determination. Benjamin's heart raced as he mirrored her stance. Together, they conjured a blinding flash that pierced through the overwhelming gloom, momentarily illuminating all their fears, anxieties, and insecurities. Suddenly, the dark man's form began to flicker, his sneer replaced by a mask of fury and desperation. "You will not escape," he shouted, lunging at them with violence rivaling a storm. But the illuminating force pushed back, the ground trembling beneath them as they stood against the tide of darkness. "Think of the love we share," Benjamin urged, sweat trickling down his brow. "We can make it stronger." Their resolve renewed. They embraced the moment and channeled their memories, their first adventure, their whispered promises, the warmth they felt in each other's presence. But then the shadows surged again, rising like a wave taller than skyscrapers, dark and insatiable. Benjamin faltered for a moment, doubt creeping into his heart. The dark man's laugh returned menacing and triumphant. "You believe in love? How naive." Suddenly, something within Benjamin shifted. "We're not just fighting for ourselves," he said, his voice steady now, filled with purpose. "We fight for everyone who has felt lost in their own darkness, everyone who thinks they can't escape." As if responding to his conviction, the light intensified. Cora's expression changed, a spark of understanding igniting in her gaze. "This darkness doesn't understand unity. We can empower each other." With that realization, Benjamin reached deeper. He took Cora's hand, holding on tight. They poured everything they had into the light, calling upon the strength of camaraderie from all the people that had ever stood with them. The light blazed so fiercely it felt like it could tear the very fabric of night itself. Yet, the shadows surged forward, and for a brief moment, Benjamin could feel their icy tendrils graze his skin, a warning whisper of despair. "We won't falter," Cora cried, amplifying the blaze, her voice echoing through the alley. But just then, a crack splintered in the air, and a sudden rush of darkness burst forth, enveloping them. Panic clawed at Benjamin's chest. "Cora, hold on." In the chaos around them, whispered secrets and unfathomable mysteries collided, secrets they never wanted to know. Clarity faded as the light flickered, and the shadows loomed larger than life. "What have you done?" The dark man growled, fury writhing in his tone. "You've awakened forces far beyond your control." Just as the shadows swallowed their light, a chilling question echoed in Benjamin's mind. Was embracing the darkness the only way to uncover the truth they so desperately sought? And then it all went black, the overwhelming abyss collapsing in on them, leaving only whispers of hope trailing behind. What would they find on the other side? In the thick darkness that enveloped Benjamin and Cora, time lost meaning. For a moment that stretched into eternity, the shadows tugged at their seams, embedding fear deeper than any soul could comprehend. Clarity felt like a distant memory, but then the warmth of defiance flickered back to life. "Hold on." Benjamin gripped Cora's hand even tighter. In the depths of despair, something primal surged within him, the raw, indomitable force of hope. With all his might, he called out, "We will not be consumed. Our love is our strength." And suddenly, like the sun breaking through an unrelenting storm, light erupted from their entwined hands. It was fierce, brilliant, and pure, pushing back against the shadows that screamed in agony. Cora's face glowed, illuminated by the radiant energy, and the fear that once threatened to devour them faded under the intensity of their resolve. Together, they shouted, voices melding into a single force reverberating against the fabric of nothingness. The shadows convulsed violently, as if realizing they were more than just a phantasm, that they could be pushed back by a genuine connection stronger than any malevolent presence. The dark man's sneer faltered, twisting into a snarl as he retreated slightly. What sorcery is this? He hissed through clenched teeth, his cold eyes wide with disbelief. The power of belief. Cora shouted fiercely. We can reshape our destinies. Your grasp over us ends here. With each word, the light surged brighter, breaking through the oppressive heaviness of the darkness that loomed. Benjamin focused on every moment they'd shared, the laughter, the quiet promises whispered in the night, the heat of her hand against his. Each memory fueled their light like a blazing inferno, pushing deeper into the shadows, illuminating the corners that had long been hidden. Feel that? Benjamin shouted, his voice rising. It's every person who's ever felt lost. We fight for them too. As their light surged forth, the shadows recoiled, screams spiraling into chilling silence. With regained confidence, Benjamin and Cora pushed towards the dark man's form, now skittering backward like a rat cornered. You will regret this. He spat, but the fury in his eyes began to dim, replaced by fear as the first crack of dawn seeped into the edges of the darkness. Don't you see? Cora said, holding Benjamin's gaze. We're not just fighting for us, this is bigger than the three of us. In that moment, something shifted. The shadows around them began to twist, dispersing, and in their place, translucent figures emerged, a chorus of lost souls searching for release. Benjamin could hear their whispers now. Regrets, sorrows, desires all entwined, a powerful reminder of the pain that darkness had caused. Stay strong. We can help you, Cora shouted, reaching toward the figures, her arms wide. Join us. Realizing their strength lay in unity, Benjamin took a deep breath. You don't have to fight alone, he bellowed. Fill the void with love, fight back with the memories of those hard times. Rise with us. Suddenly, the figures surged forward, channeling their collective energy into a wave of vibrant light, crashing against the dark man with searing force. His screams echoed like a banshee, piercing through the very fabric of despair he once commanded. No, I am your master, he roared, but his desperation only fueled their rise. Tethered by their shared resolve, Benjamin and Cora, along with the displaced souls, hurled forth a final wave of unrelenting light. It enveloped the dark man, wrapping him in brilliance, amplifying cries into a symphony of breaking chains, and then silence. The dark man dissolved like mist blown away by a gentle breeze. The shadows, stripped of their master, faded into nothing more than whispers of the past. Cora, Benjamin gasped, the realization washing over him. We did it. But the world trembled around them, a distant rumble echoing as if the storm was still raging outside. Just as clarity emerged, the alley shifted, and they were swept up in a burst of energy. Suddenly, they stood back in the diner. The storm outside was gone, replaced by a gentle drizzle that painted the pavements like tears of joy. The neon lights still buzzed, reflecting the miracle before them. Patrons remained, though now wearing expressions of peace, smiles replacing fear. What happened? Cora whispered, looking around, still holding Benjamin's hand tightly. You changed everything, a familiar voice broke in. It was the waitress, her expression warm and filled with admiration. You both shone a light that shattered the darkness. You saved more than just your souls. You opened the door for others. As they stepped further into the diner, they realized it felt different, lighter, safer. Cora smiled, a glimmer of relief washing over her. So we really made it? Together, Benjamin said, his chest swelling with gratitude and renewed hope. Nothing can break us apart. Cora glanced towards the window, where a soft splash of sunlight broke through the remnants of dark clouds. Then we keep fighting. We keep loving, she said quietly. As they embraced, the storm clouds faded entirely, revealing a blue sky above. The diner buzzed with a new atmosphere. What had felt suffocating transformed into a space filled with makeshift camaraderie. People who had once lingered in shadows now mingled with smiles, and whispers of newfound hope. "Let us go celebrate," Cora suggested, her eyes alight with joy. "After all, love won today." He pulled her closer, feeling the warmth of possibility blossom. "Let us rewrite our stories," he said. Together, they stepped out into the light, leaving behind the shadows where they belonged. And with every step taken, new beginnings sprouted from the very darkness they had defied. They walked forward, not into the unknown but into life together, hand in hand. Now, in this moment, it was time for you, dear reader, to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions, your theories about the ending, and what you think might happen next. Don't keep this wild ride to yourself. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support, and we can't wait to hear from you. Don't wait even one more second to share.